Just to remind everyone, here's my piece of paper here. The purpose of this commission, well, first let me welcome you all to the May 23rd meeting of the Village of Pinehurst Historic Preservation Commission. The purpose of the commission is to approve certificates of appropriateness for new construction or major work, and to do so by conducting hearings and findings of fact when applications come before us. Our mission is to take no action except to preserve and approve that which is congruous with the special character of the Village of Pinehurst Historic District. I'm Molly Gwynn. I'm the chairman of the HPC. On my left is Terry Lertz and Tom Schroeder. On my right, Eric Von Salzen and John Taylor. Absent today is Jim McChesney. We also have Alex Cameron at the podium, village planner, and Kathy Lyles, village planner. We have a quorum, so we can proceed. Just to remind you that this is a quasi-judicial hearing. So anyone desiring to testify must be sworn in, and we are required to consider only facts presented, and the proceedings are video recorded. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes from the last meeting, the April 25th meeting. Do I hear any corrections or amendments to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Tom Schroeder approved, and Eric Von Salzen seconded. The next order of business will be to swear in Alex Cameron and Kathy Lyles, our village planners. And do you affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. We're changing our order a little bit. Russ Cribbs will present his COA 19050, and I should have 19040, which is to hear the application for the renovations at 275 Dundee Road. And I need to swear you in too, Russ. Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. So, Kathy, why don't you start by presenting the case?
Okay, I'll be glad to do that and give you a very quick summary.
Kathy, excuse me. Do we need to adjourn the regular meeting? Okay.
Still good?
No, I don't know that, have we entered the public hearing yet?
In the public hearing. I wasn't.
Did you?
I don't,
We're not doing the in and out.
I just want to make sure that I missed the motion to enter a public hearing from the regular meeting, because I don't recollect that happening.
That's what I'm saying. I think we've missed it. We're not going in and out, but we have not gone in
You
yet.
have to go in the first time.
We have to go in the first time. Okay. I make a motion that we enter into public hearings.
So we need a second to the
Second.
motion. Tom Schroeder made a motion to enter the public hearing, and John Taylor made a motion, seconded the motion. All right, we are in the public hearing. So, Kathy.
Now I can proceed, so we're good to go. Okay, the property in question for COA 19-040 is located at 275 Dundee Road, and Russ Cribbs is obviously with us this evening to provide testimony. In your packet, you will find both the staff report, some sample materials like the brick materials, a list of materials, a site plan, and also elevations and schematics for the structure. This is a contributing building that was originally built in 1924, and what they are proposing to do to the building at this time is to attach an existing outbuilding using a covered walkway. And I will note that the reason we needed to do this is to make sure that we maintain the percent coverage, the percent outbuildings that are allowed. So it's kind of an overlap with a PDO that's driving the covered walkway. Otherwise, we have to go back and look at the square footage of the building separately, and that presented some other issues. So this is one of the tools that is often used as to connect the buildings. So they're going to attach the existing outbuilding with the walkway, construct a new detached garage, and add a first-floor addition to the rear of the building, paint, replace the roof on the main house and cottage, and install a new covered front porch. Russ, have I missed anything?
I'd just like to, may I speak?
Sure, he's been sworn.
And I'd just like to add that I appreciate the historical significance of this particular house. This was Rusty Wicker's house, and the
Russ,
home,
could you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
and the homeowners absolutely appreciate the.
Point of order. He needs to be sworn in, I believe.
Already
Was.
did.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that we understand the historical significance of this structure, and certainly the homeowners do too. We're going to make every effort to be able to reuse everything that, even windows that we'll remove, we're going to try to use those in the garage and even hardwood in the house, but you don't care about the interiors much, but we understand the significance.
Okay.
Okay, and if the commission would like, I'll just kind of go down the major headings.
Certainly.
That'd be the easiest way to move forward? Okay. I think probably if many of you have driven by this house, you'll notice that it's currently a yellow color. And under the materials, where you see the color shift, you'll see that it's swapping over to Maison Blanche, which is one of the Sherwin-Williams colors that is in the Village palette. So we're good with the paint color. They are calling for a copper metal roof on the front porch, and that is in your list of architectural metals that can be used, but that is a little bit different because it's not currently on the house. In terms of the proportions of the garage, they should, or you should consider whether or not they're compatible with the proportions of the main house, and in this case, the house is growing somewhat in scale. At the same time, I guess we will have a garage that will also be added. The applicant proposes to use brick to match the house and fiber cement lap siding on the house. Most of the windows that we see are 4/4, and Russ, I believe you and I did discuss that you could use 4/4. The plans show 2/3 vinyl covered windows, but he would be open to substitution with 4/4 if the commission prefers to see that. On the porches, entrances, and balconies, you want to preserve those architectural features that are character-defining elements. And so the addition of the front porch, I think you're going to be looking to see, is that going to be conspicuous or not? Will it be compatible? And will it be compatible with neighborhood-defining features? And you should be able, if there are any questions that are not reflected on the drawings, I'm sure Russ can weigh in with some additional information. In terms of the addition to the main dwelling, it should be as inconspicuously done as possible, preferably on rear elevations. And if you look at the plans, let's see, I think we should have numbered the pages, but hopefully you can tell from the drawing. I'll hold the page up to make it a little bit easier. You can see where the main part of this addition is here, where this is sketched out. A good portion of that actually is to the rear and will be occurring, oh, there we go, thank you. Keep coming down, I don't think we're quite there yet. That's on the garage. We need to get a little farther.
Might be,
A
Or is it
1.1.
up? May have gone past it when I wasn't looking. There we go, okay. So you can kind of see how that rear addition sits in there and kind of fills in the back, because the house is a very interesting shape. You've got a large deep wing on the right. It's almost like an L shape. And what this does, it comes back and fills in between the two sides of the L. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have? So we've already talked a little bit about materials. In terms of roof forms, you want them to be to blend with the original buildings. So looking at the roof lines, I think Alex can show us that. There we go. So that will help. Alex, could you point to the addition area so they can kind of see how that fits in? So if you look at the upper one, you can see where the breaks in the roof line are, and if you come down on the lower left, onto the bottom, to the back there. Russ, do you want to weigh in a little bit about what the roof line would be at the back there?
We're definitely, I feel, making improvements to the house that should have been made, because everybody's probably driven by this house many, many times on Dundee, and the house does look really low. That's something Ms. Gwynn and I talked about earlier. And raising the roof is, most of the house, it does have 9-foot ceilings, but the area of the kitchen that we're going to be raising to 9, and it's pretty much a flat roof. And there's another section in the back right corner of the house that will also, it's a flat roof, and it'll become a hip roof there.
And so when we're looking at the additions not being taller than the house, you feel that the roof line that is going in will be compatible with what you already have for existing roof line? All right. And then we also want to make sure that the horizontal elements generally align on the buildings and the additions. I think that was demonstrated in the plans as well. Could you talk a little bit about windows in terms of muntins and how, and a little bit more with the windows on the addition itself?
We're going to try to match those windows as best we can. And as Kathy said, most of the changes are going to occur in the rear, probably, and the entrance is really, just the entrance is probably the only thing that you're going to notice much of a change from the road.
So I think that, with that being said, on my part at least, I think we've kind of hit some of the high points, unless you have some other questions for me.
Well, do the commissioners have questions of Kathy or of Russ Cribbs? John?
Yeah, when I drove by the house, and in particular when I drove into the church parking lot so I could see the rear area, I didn't understand where the driveway was going to be. I don't have any particular problem with the plan, but then when I came back around front, it looks like the existing house pretty much spans the existing lot line. So how are you going to get into the garage? Is it really going to be a garage, or is it going to be more like a shop?
It will be a garage. I mean, he will use it as a shop some. He's a tinkerer, but an optometrist by trade. So this is a huge lot, and there definitely is room along the right side of the structure. There's a circle drive in the front, and then we're going to do a gravel drive. And if Alex, if you can kind of point, can you point from the street and then go straight back to the garage? That's where the driveway will be. And we're taking out very few trees there as well, only the ones that we have to take.
Well, while we have this up, would you point to where the accessory structure is now and where the breezeway will be? Because that's an addition in itself, the covered breezeway that connects the house to the little cottage.
And they would rather not do that, but I think that's a condition of approval, but they would rather not have to attach. It actually does, it is attached by a walkway now, but I know that doesn't constitute.
Doesn't make it part of the principal dwelling.
Right.
And what I missed in the application was a drawing of what the breezeway was going to look like.
That is true, but I did label on the site plan. I did label that we're going to do 4x4 posts with a gable roof and the same shingles, the same materials. It'll be as simple as possible to meet the requirement.
Would it be something like the front porch?
It won't be circular like the front porch or an arch, but it'll be a gable roof that will attach the two structures. And done as simply as possible. Also, I don't think that you could see this, maybe from the church parking lot, but I don't think that you could see this.
Well, I was mostly curious about the supports and, what the appearance would be.
And the height of that gabled roof will not be any higher than, compared to the house.
8 feet at most.
Okay.
So when you reconfigured the roof, because you were dealing with a flat roof there on that middle section, you took the height from the right-hand wing,
Correct.
and that's the same height.
Correct. We're not raising it.
And then is there a shed roof effect over the new addition, the new area, it's hard to tell what the slope is, what the pitch is.
Should be labeled on the plan.
Alex, can you bring up the roof? Thank you.
Just a moment, please. I can't see that far.
Well, we have trouble too, because the drawings are pretty tiny that we were given here.
Seven on 12 is the pitch, which matches the existing home.
Okay. Okay. And your door and windows on that family room, that new family room, that didn't come out too clearly, so is that 4/4 or what?
We're going to match it, correct?
And the doorway? Is that, what's happening there? Is that that's not a slider, is it?
It's not. That's going to be it'll be a fixed door, so it'll be a fixed on one side and one active door. But it looks like a French door, but it'll look like a French door, but it's fixed on one side and active on the other. And I have a picture if you like. I have a picture of that door.
Pass it around.
Well, say, I see on the drawing here, it says there's 35 feet between the house and the existing fence, and I would not have judged that from the road. It looked a lot narrower than that, but I assume the drawing is correct.
Absolutely.
So you're adding a chimney, masonry?
That is a change, and I apologize, I forgot to make that change. We for budget reasons, we're going to change that to a frame chimney with shakes to match the house.
So it's an insert fireplace?
Correct.
Not a wood, okay.
Correct. And I apologize for that oversight.
More discussion from the commissioners?
Do we need to understand as a condition of approval whether we're doing 2/3 or 4/4 windows?
If it,
I would say that would be very important.
yeah, I was going to say, if it's different than the drawings, by all means, then I think we need to state that as a condition. I would think.
Could the condition be consistent with the windows on the house? 4/4 consistent with the windows on the house? Are there any comments from attendees, from the public? Are there any, anybody like to speak? I don't have any requests, but I'm looking at a lot of faces here, so I
Okay.
want to make sure that you're included. All right. Is someone ready to make a motion? Tom Schroeder will make the motion.
I move that we conclude that the project certificate of appropriateness COA 19-040, if constructed according to the approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historical District based on the following findings of fact. Portion of the proposed garage guest house will be compatible with the proportion of the main house. The proposed garage/guest house will use traditional roof materials and detail. The addition of the front porch will be inconspicuous relative to the house. The addition of the front porch will be compatible with the neighborhood-defined features. The proposed addition will be incongruous, or will be inconspicuous and will be on the rear elevation. The proposed addition will be similar in scale, character as the existing building. The proposed addition will consist of compatible materials and colors to the existing building. The proposed work structure will be compatible with the neighboring buildings. The roof line of the proposed addition will blend with the original building. The windows in the proposed addition will be similar to those in the original building, and with the condition that we'll add here momentarily. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundations and eaves that are generally aligned with the existing building. The proposed project will be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District. And with the one addition of that the windows on the front need to be compatible with the windows in the remainder of the house, which are 4/4, right?
The windows on the addition,
On
the
the
windows
addition.
on the addition will be consistent with the windows on the house, which will be 4/4.
And
And-
the garage.
And may I ask for clarification, did you also want, yeah, oh, you just clarified, never mind.
Yep,
The
we did.
garage.
So we got both. And as mentioned there, and, I need to borrow your sheet again. The remainder of my comment. And therefore, the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans, and we already discussed the following condition that was there.
So we have a motion from Tom Schroeder with one condition, motion to approve. Is there a second to the
Second.
motion? John Taylor seconded the motion. Commissioners, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Russ. All right, as long as you're here, let's do your second project, which is COA 19041. Can we find that? That would be the last on the agenda. Property is 120 Woods Road. Is the property owner here? So you will speak for them. Kathy, are you?
Just for clarification purposes, Alex, I think we wound up with some inconsistent numbers with the COA numbers. So if it's okay, I'm going to read the COA number off the staff report because I'm pretty sure those numbers were the ones that were entered into the log. So I'm going to make sure that I also reflect those numbers, if it's okay, during my discussion. Don't want any confusion about what
okay.
we approve. So this one I have listed as 19-051
Instead of, okay.
instead of, yes.
Now I understand what I've got.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready for me? Okay, so this property, also we have a staff report in our packet and a list of materials, a couple of photographs so you can have view of the siding, and a drawing, so that way you have all of this for your record. So let's go through it really quickly. The nature of the project was to construct a detached garage, guest house, add new landscaping, add shutters, front porch railing and columns, paint exterior doors, and add exterior light fixtures. This is to a contributing building that was constructed in 1935 on parcel ID number 23528. So in looking at this, the roof line on the main house is a combination of gable shed and flat. The additional structure will use a gable roof without the shed. We're bringing this one to you because we felt that the size of the structure and types of materials was certainly something that HPC should consider. So once again, proportions of new garages should be compatible with proportions of the main house. The scale should be smaller. The main house is listed as 1.5 stories or 23 feet tall, has a first floor footprint of 1,647 square feet. The proposed garage will have a first floor footprint of 624 square feet and is proposed to have an 8-foot bonus area above the garage and will be 22 feet tall, roughly the same height of the main house. It will be located directly behind the main house. So when you're looking at it on the site plan that Alex has up for you, you'll see that it's literally directly behind it. Would be visible from McIntyre, although it is somewhat vegetated on that side, not so much from Woods. Okay. And so we look for our garages to use traditional forms, materials, and detail compatible with the main building or historic structure. The applicant proposes brick to match the house and vinyl siding. The main building has 6/6 windows. The windows are a predominant feature. If you've been by that house, you'll have that one long room down the side that's just an entire row of windows that are 6/6. The garage plans show 4/4 vinyl windows. And then in terms of color, we're looking that exterior should be preserved and protected with a sound paint film, and the paint color should be appropriate to the building and the district. And since we're looking at the door and shutters, let's look at our materials list here. And we had a slight change on this one. I think the original front door was proposed to be wood, and that's going to fiberglass, with the paint going to Rookwood Shutter Green. All of the 3 color swatches that they provided to us were within our color list, our color palette. And Russ, I think maybe it would be good if you talk a little bit about the front porch addition.
I apologize. I got an interior permit, and we started beginning the interior, and there were some columns on the front porch, and so we did do some work on the front porch. That's the only exterior, other than mowing the grass, that's the only exterior work that we've done on the house, and I do apologize for that.
I was going to mention that because it's, it's traditional to wait until you have the
I know,
COA.
and I'm sorry. I know better than that. I've been doing this a long time, and I apologize. We were just working, but I wanted to do the doors too, but I knew I better not do that. So, just because maybe we could have replaced the columns without, because I consider that repair, but we should have stopped at that point, and I apologize for doing that.
Railing's going to be painted?
Yes, sir. White.
And the door, are you just painting the door, or is it a replacement?
We're actually going to replace it with a fiberglass door, and it has a side light, very similar, but just not as much. The doors now really don't. They're trying to achieve a cottage look, and the doors with
So it won't
arched
have the, it
panels
won't have
and-
the etched glass window?
No, no. We're doing very little to the exterior of the house, other than what Kathy mentioned, but the biggest thing is the addition of the garage.
Is there, did you consider making the garage windows consistent with the house? Because that windows are they're so obvious.
Yep.
I mean, there's just that whole row of windows. as
And
Kathy
I've
said.
already made a note, and I've already told the person that ordering the windows that we want to change that to match the house.
So that will be a change.
We've already done that.
Windows will be changed to, what, 4/4?
6/6, I think.
The only other thing I would make a note of, although it's kind of happening concurrent with this, it was also a request for a minor approval to remove trees on the back and the side behind the house. But I just want to note that because you are reviewing the site plan right now, and that tree removal will affect visibility. They do propose to replant trees, but that will take some time.
So trees, because you have to make way for the construction?
Some limbs would do that, but mostly, one of them is obvious because must have been struck by lightning years ago, and it's rotten, so it definitely needs to come down. But the rest of them are, and none of them, I think only one's a pine, but that's because of the driveway, and the other one's just because one's a sycamore, maybe a couple are sycamores, and they just make a big mess. But that's a homeowner preference. And, a couple of them are leaning, and lots of people that we work for really they really worry about leaning trees, and I understand that, especially with 3 hurricanes last year.
Any more?
I have,
Sure.
I have a newspaper clipping. Unfortunately, I can't read it.
No, that's not this house.
The other one?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
No,
Can you
'cause-
describe the landscaping that you're talking about? I don't see anything here.
May I pass that around?
And while we're looking at this, and commissioners are discussing, I'll ask for any comments from the audience or from attendees.
Yes, that's what I'm going to discuss.
Driveway is from Woods Road, not from McIntyre, right?
It's from McIntyre.
Well, it is from McIntyre.
Not sure you could get in from Woods Road on this one. You may have on the other one, but I don't think you could on this one.
Because that's where all the trees are now, so you got a bunch to take out. Okay, now it makes sense. I didn't understand coming down here.
Any comments on the landscaping?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Sure.
You're proposing Leyland cypress. Where I live now, we're trying to get rid of them. Green giants are much better as a proposal. They're more conducive to the area, and they're a better plant. Maybe that Leyland cypress was at one time, but the green giant now is the recommended.
I'll make that suggestion to the landscaper. Thank you.
Was that a recent change? Because I thought when I discussed it with Jason that he was proposing not to use Leyland cypress. Or did I have that backwards?
Maybe the landscaper and the tree removal person have a difference of opinion, so I'll work that out with them.
That could be it. Mhm.
You got any questions? Yeah, bluestone, yeah. Okay.
Any further questions? Are we ready to make a motion? Eric Von Saltzen will make the motion.
I move that we conclude that the proposed project certificate of appropriateness number, I hope this is correct, 19-051, if constructed according to approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. Portion of the proposed garage/guest house will be compatible with the proportions of the main house. The proposed garage/guest house will use traditional roof forms, materials, and detail. Repainting the door and shutters will be compatible with the building and the district. The proposed project will be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District. Therefore, that the Historic Preservation Commission issues a certificate approving the proposal shown in the approved plan, subject to the following conditions: that the windows in the garage/guest house be 6/6, rather than as shown in the plans.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Eric Von Saltzen. Is there a second?
Second.
Don Taylor seconded the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Thank you. Thank you, Russ. Now, shall we move to the school?
Is it 15 Beulah Hill?
Okay.
49.
The front page says 49. And the inside page, just to prevent any confusion, says 49 as well, so that one's good.
Okay.
This is really all you can see from the road. You can't see from my house from the road. So I thought it might be clearer if I gave you a side elevation of what we're looking to do.
Thank you.
Currently, we have round columns, so we want to replace them with square columns.
And I believe she needs to be sworn in.
Yes, yes. And Kathy, why don't you present?
Go
Okay.
ahead and get started, and then we'll bounce in when we need to. Okay, in this particular case, oh, would you like to swear her in first? Okay, sorry.
All right. Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, so this is COA 19-049, and the nature of the project is a front porch remodel to replace fiberglass round pillars with square pillars, to remove a fascia board trim and leave the dental trim, and recenter the light fixture and add a second light, attach a false pillar to the house behind the square pillars we'll talk about in a minute, and add a side rail with panels to the porch. This is a non-contributing dwelling that's located in the district. It was constructed in 1976. Just to kind of give you a heads up. So for this particular one, we're once again looking at porches, entrances, and balconies again. Before I start, Alex, let me enter this into the record. So we do have our application, our staff report, and we have drawings, description of the project, description of materials, and some photographs that I would like to enter into the record right now, so we have that in. Okay, so now porches, entrances, and balconies retain and preserve all architectural features that are character-defining elements of porches, etc. I'm not going to read it all. So in this case, as we mentioned, the applicant proposes replacing round columns with square columns on the front porch, which will actually match the change that took place at the rear of the house. Was it a year or two ago?
2016.
2016. And you will be able to see in the photos that they're going to double up and center the lighting, add the side rail and panels. The front of the house is very heavily screened from the road. You actually cannot see it at all when you're driving by it.
That was intentional.
And then the second item is, let's see, actually, that really is
That's
the
it.
only item.
That's it.
That's it, that's it. But I would note that we did have a conversation about the door, and Megan did go ahead and move forward with the door. Is that correct? Yes.
Door was installed.
Questions?
Are the new pillars also fiberglass, or are they wood?
The new ones are going to be wood. What I'm trying to do is take this non-historic house and make it look a little more historic.
And that was, I think, one of the comments we probably should have made about the dental trim
Yes,
that's on the outside.
dental is very important to me. I mean, I really, that is one aspect of the construction that I've been clear with all of the additions that it remain and it be consistent.
I think I will say it was the most challenging location to try to drive by also.
And I agree with you, and I resorted to parking at your neighbor's and walking across the
You're more than
backyard.
welcome to do the turnaround in front of our
Well, no,
house.
but you were installing the door then, so. So, yeah, it was difficult.
Sorry about that.
Now, you're also, you're replacing shutters?
We are. We took off the aluminum shutters. They were green aluminum shutters, and we're putting in real working shutters. They're cedar. They're also going to be green. It's Hunt Club green, which is Sherman-Williams. And
Okay.
again, I'm just trying to make it look historic.
Can I ask how long you've owned this house?
Yes, you may. For about 18 years. And we used to come down and summer here. We lived in Connecticut. And then my husband took a position in Los Angeles. And then we stopped coming because my daughter was a competitive rider, and the house, we were depending on people to take care of the house. We'd never have leased it out, and it wasn't being done. So my husband was golfing. He came back and was golfing with someone, and the person said to him, when he said where he lived, he said, "Oh, I thought that house was abandoned." So about 4 years ago, we started really focusing on it. My husband retires in 2 years, so we're hoping to have all of the things done by then. So I'll be back to see you again.
I hope I don't prejudice the case by saying I commend you for what you've been doing. I drive by that house, which of course is invisible, but I know you've been doing work on it
Welcome to
for
pull in any time.
for some time, and I think it's obviously a great challenge to deal with that particular property, and to say I commend you.
Thank you, thank you. And I will address the landscaping. We've tried landscaping, we've put in sprinkler systems twice, and we've gotten bills from Moore County. The last one was $3,800, so we're turned off the sprinkler system. When we live here, we will landscape the property, and we will get the sprinkler system up and running, but we just can't do it till we're here.
Any more questions? Terry and Tom, go ahead.
No? My question is, I heard discussion about shutters.
They've already been approved.
They've
were
already been
approved.
approved. They're not part of this
Staff
proceedings.
approved
Is that correct? The staff has already approved the shutters?
I-
My only question is, so I understand
Yes,
what I'm voting
yes.
for, is that,
Right,
Half in the door and the shutters were already approved by staff.
we're in the shutters were approved, that's right.
okay, that's fine.
Those were
'Cause I
done
just
as
didn't
minors.
see them in the package here, and that's why, when I heard them, I'm going, what am I voting on here? Or what will I be voting on? That's the question I have.
Your question? Your question? Okay, all right. So, any comments from the audience? No? So we're ready to make a motion. Terry, thank you. Terry Lurtz,
I move that we conclude that the proposed project certificate of appropriateness 19-049, if constructed according to approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. The proposed change to the front porch will be inconspicuous. Proposed change to the front porch will be compatible with the neighborhood defining features. The proposed project will be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District. And since there are no conditions, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission conclude that the proposed project certificate of appropriateness 19-049, if I move, that's all, there are no conditions, so.
thank you. The motion has been made by Terry Lurtz, the second.
I'll second.
Tom Schroeder seconded the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So if the school architects, Mr. Covington, and I need to swear you both in. Samples here.
Mainly interested in elevations, right?
I am.
Well, and I want the audience to see it as well. Although we do have the images on the screens, but I feel that these will be much clearer and more detailed. This is the site plan. And what else do you have in the program, Alex? Just the site plan?
Madam Chair, if you'd like to, I can take the opportunity to kind of kick everything off while the guys are getting situated here. If you, and Kathy, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and enter the hearing into the record for us all. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request within the Pinehurst Historic District to construct a new Pinehurst Elementary School, and this is following demolition of the existing school at 100 Dundee Road, adjacent to the intersection with Kelly Road in Pinehurst, North Carolina. The property can be identified by Moore County parcel ID number 000248884. The property is owned by the Moore County Board of Education, and the applicant is Brent Covington with Ratio Design. This project, as this commission may recall, has received a COA for the demolition of the existing buildings on the site, and they are actually currently undergoing the review of a major site plan through the Planning and Zoning Board. Review actually took place yesterday evening with a favorable review and recommendation to approval with conditions to Village Council. The applicants have also received a variance for the building height to exceed the 35-foot height limit to 45 feet 10 inches, I believe. There is a pending variance application as well for impervious surface coverage to exceed the maximum 40% to allow for 45% hard surface coverage. And the applicants are presenting full-size detailed elevations for the commission and will be available for review by the public, as well as an updated conceptual site plan with detailed labeling of the actual site itself, entrance, exits, stacking area. And at this point, I will...
I think at this point, I would like to swear the presenters in, the architects in. If you would, do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? And you are Mr. Covington?
Yes, I'm Brent Covington with Ratio.
And
My name is John Barath. I'm the Executive Officer for Operations for Moore County Schools and a registered architect in North Carolina.
welcome, welcome. Go ahead.
John, do you actually want to kick things off initially just in terms of the general mission of the school, like student count, that sort of thing?
Thank you for your patience while we got organized and distributed the documents to you. We are excited about this project. We're glad to be here tonight to present it to you. This is an exciting time. We have a new 800-student elementary school that is needed to replace the current school. As you're well aware, we've been patching our capacity at that existing school right now with putting modular units out there. They have their own little grouping, and we almost have about 40% of our students out in those modular units at the school. The school is continuing to grow. We keep having new kids enrolled every year. The need is now. The need is to build an appropriate size school here. It has been very challenging to find a property within an ideal targeted location to build a new school. We worked closely with many consultants and within the communities and within our own staff in evaluating potential locations for the school. We came to a conclusion that the current location is the best location. This is a facility that has been a historic location for school across many, many years. A lot of those original structures have been torn down and others built in their place since the school was first established on this site. This is connected to the community. This is pride of the community. This is walking distance for majority of the community to go to school, and it provides a lot of opportunity to the community after school hours of spaces. So we felt that this location was the appropriate place to continue to operate our schools from. So the challenge has been, from the get-go, it is a small site. And so working with our design team and their specialty, Brent will explain their historic preservation specialist on staff in trying to assemble a solution that is respectful to the requirements and needs of the preservation and as well as meeting the needs of the community. And so we're just glad to be here tonight to present this, and we're here to respond to any questions you will have throughout.
I thought it best to be, go ahead and start with the site plan to get everybody sort of oriented, especially with what is there, so they can understand things a little bit better spatially. At the top of the page is Dundee Road. At page left, that's Kelly Road. So the existing, if you can see my cursor, the existing school, the main office, is down in this lower left-hand corner with a cafeteria that tightly runs along Kelly. You have the media center that sits roughly in the middle. The mobile village is down here in the corner, and then the gym is up here at this top right corner. So we've already gotten approval for full demolition for all the structures, so this is an entirely newly constructed school. As John had mentioned, is to serve 800 students. So what we needed to do initially was to balance the program that was given to us by county schools on site and with classroom spaces. Part of it was dictated by existing rules by NCDOT and code. As you can see, this large drive that turns in is the student pickup and drop off. It comes in at one lane and splits very quickly to double stack and then moves around, and we are now accommodating 9 spots to drop students off, and that's that lengthy canopy that you see along the front of the building. Over here you have bus parking just to the left. It's in between Kelly and the school. And then further down you have staff parking, but that's really going to be also overflow parking for visitors as well. So as you can see, what we tried to do is in a very formal manner front the school to Dundee. Once we get later on in elevations, you'll see the symmetry that falls within it. But initially, what we were challenged with was the massing of the school. Given the program and trying to accommodate it, we want to try to keep the school at a pedestrian scale as much as possible, especially in a residential area. So the number one move that we made was bringing it well inboard. So if you're looking at it, and we'll get onto it with some sectional studies in some following slides, but you have a fair amount of distance. You have over 200 feet from the curb here to the foot of the building. You have over 200 feet from the curb here at Kelly to the foot of the building, and then you have 170 feet, I believe, from here to the property line, and then on this side you have, I think, approximately about 130 feet. So just be aware of scale. Sometimes things can get lost. There's a fairly generous amount of space that is allowed around the structure. So we'll go ahead and move on.
I got a question before we get there.
Absolutely.
While you're on the scale, is there enough what is the turning radius for a bus in that area there where you have number 4? Is that considered?
Yes, CL8's our civil engineer. They've already done studies for turn radius.
Bus turn is number 4, though, is it correct?
Yeah, the bus will turn here.
What is 2 up there? Is there a canopy up there as well?
You have the main canopy that sits right here. This is a raised pedestrian table right here, and that falls right within the pickup and drop off. But that's actually a very good question. I'm glad you brought that up. In terms of tying in with the community, you have two main drives. This is your student pickup and drop off here. And then on this side would be your bus drop off bus drop-off and staffing. So students that are dropped off, this is the main entrance that they would come to, as well as visitors day to day. Bus riders would enter here in what we're calling the lobby connector, and that's also your after-hours public entrance too.
Okay, so you had mentioned a canopy.
Yes.
Where are the canopies? Because those are predominant, you would see them from the street.
We'll be able to get into that. There's a
Okay.
lot of detail that we're coming into. This is
Okay.
just sort of, we're working at
I was
bird's
just
eye
trying to
level.
place it in
We're
my
zoning
mind
down.
where they are on here, is
Yeah,
all I'm asking.
and I'm more than happy to zoom or go back a few slides if we want to
Fine.
reference things again. So generally, just for reference and clarity in terms of terminology, the design team consistently has been calling this long sort of dumbbell shape here, linear, that is the frontage of the school that faces Dundee. We've been calling that the classroom wing because that's primarily what's housed there. You also have administration and you have student support. You have the lobby connector here, and then this mass towards the back is we generically have called that the gym wing, but that also houses the cafeteria, the commercial kitchen, the media center, robotics, arts, and music. One more thing to note before we move on to the next slide is that you have playgrounds that are dedicated to specific grades that come off of the classroom wing on this side. So you have the 10, 11, 12, that's what that denotes. And then this large green area is a multi-purpose field with a gravel track around it. Speaking of gravel, one last thing is that gravel track, or the gravel path will also connect to the historic sand path that now rings the site. And that's going to be your primary pedestrian walk approach to the building. This area is actually zoned out for the school's community garden. And then if you see this circle right here, there's an existing cupola that sits on site, and we will refurbish the existing cupola, and it'll sit there prominently on a new pedestal. Let's see if we can zoom out on these. So these are the sectional studies that we thought it was important to understand the relationship of the school itself and its neighbors and try to be respectful as possible of the surrounding area and community. So in this top section here, that denotes classroom wing. This is actually the east of the site right here. So these would be the neighbors over in this area, and it would be capturing this part of the classroom wing. So that's that classroom. As you can see now, the massing starts to step back. So you're at 134 feet, but you're still at 19 feet at the top of the roof line. And it's well within that. I think you have another 60 to 70 feet before you get to the tallest height of the building, which is 44 feet and 10 inches, which we were granted a building height variance for a couple weeks ago. So as you move down, this next section right here, that's the classroom wing. That's the north, so that's fronting Dundee. You can see the main entry canopy here. This is your main approach. So you have 241 feet. So that path traverses right here, right down the middle. This next sectional study is more of the back of the property, or the south portion of the property. So you have your Everett neighbors over here in their backyards. You have the multi-purpose field, and then you have the gym wing, and you have, before you even hit the gym wing wall, and that's not at the apex of the roof, you have 172 feet to that boundary. You have the gym. Just to add a little bit about what's driving the height of the gym, it is, since we have a full-size high school gym court in there, we need to make sure that we maintain the clearances for a proper playing zone. And then as you can see, we're still another 112 feet off before we get to the classroom, which is the largest portion of the structure. So you move down. These are a couple studies that we did on Kelly Drive. So you have your Kelly residential neighbors here, and then you have your bus lot, and then from the edge of curb all the way to the edge of the building, you have over 196 feet. And that still puts you just at 19 feet for the roof level. And then it bumps up after 64, or approximately 64 feet, you bump up to the full 4410. So hopefully you're starting to understand how we studied it, and we're trying to parcel down the massing as much as we can, pull away, and be as respectful as possible with the neighbors. And then finally, this is one this last one is cut at the dining area. So the first one cut right about here at Kelly and is indicating a residence is here. The last one we're going over cuts right here, but I thought it was important to capture the large church building just across Kelly. So you can see that it's dining, which is right at the apex of the dining roof is at 36 feet because that's being dictated by the clearance of the playing zone of the gymnasium. And then at the edge of dining, it's 234 feet before you get to Kelly Road. And then as you can see on the other side, Community Presbyterian is approximately 63 feet off of the curb. And I believe our approximate numbers for the height of that was maybe somewhere around 26 feet or plus is what we could estimate. So we'll go ahead and move on. Just to get a sense of exactly what we're housing and what's driving a lot of the footprint of the building is, so you have your main administration right here. You have your student support right here. This is your main entrance here. We'll get into the details of what that canopy is. You have a linear canopy, or actually two linear canopies that are shed roofs, and then you actually have here a more formalized hip roof here. So there's a clear hierarchy of where you're entering in the building. Then what we did on the first floor as well as the second floor of the classroom tower is we tried to divide it up into nodes of classrooms to help teachers work in zones, and then alleviate that with collaborative common areas that also provide a lot of additional light deeper into that double-loaded corridor. So we're bringing, that's what we always want to try to achieve, is to bring as much natural light into every teaching space that we possibly can. So you have second grade over here. You have your first grade right here, and over here you have your pre-K and kindergarten, and they are directly adjacent to their respective play areas outside, and then you have kindergarten right here. And then as you move down, there's that main lobby connector right there, which is a single story. And then when you move into the area C, you have the media center over in this location, robotics, art, and music stack. On the other side of the corridor, you have a gang bathroom. That's the main mechanical room that sits in between the media center and then the dining or cafeteria. And then our commercial kitchen with sort of the back of house and the service yard sits right here. And then your gymnasium with its platform is over in this corner. So when you move up to the second floor, in the classroom wing, it's much the same strategy with these common areas, providing collaborative space and allowing for natural light to come in as deeply as possible within the building. And then it's broken up into zones of third grade, fourth grade, and then you have fifth grade. As you can see, it's almost, sometimes we refer to these lower single-story portions of the classroom wing as saddles, and that's that strategy where we're massing, we're trying to step down, so we're providing as much relief for our neighbors as possible. So you have a series of hip and gable roofs that make up the roof of the classroom wing, and then for the gym wing, Area C, it's a series of gable roofs, and then you have one shed roof here. The hatch, that denotes standing metal seam. We provided an example, physical example of that. That's going to be sort of a mid-tone gray. This is just giving you a small indication of how much we intensively studied. Sorry. How much we intensively studied the community. We have a full catalog of window fenestration, door fenestration. We studied the roofs and tried to identify commonalities, and then the proportions within those in hopes of achieving window openings and roof profiles that are compatible with the community. So on to the elevations. So the elevations is primarily composed of a red brick. It is a Norman-sized brick, which is more linear in dimension. The reason for that is that's another aesthetic decision that we made to try to bring the massing down as much as possible and reinforce the horizontality and try to make the building feel less imposing. The other plus of using a Norman-sized brick is that you can lay brick faster, because each unit that you have to butter means that you're laying things down in linear feet. So we have some economy of work hours in there. So that standing metal seam roof is throughout. There's only one small portion that is a flat roof, but that sits well inboard and well out of sight from street view. In fact, the only way you could view it is within the building. So there's your main canopy. If we look at the top elevation, there's your main entry canopy here. And then you're looking at the west side of that classroom wing. The lobby connector and the canopy extending out to the bus drop-off is located here. This portion that I'm indicating now is the media center. And then as you move further to the south, you have the mechanical room, and then finally, these large bay of windows would be the dining. And then you see your service yard, which is going to be fully enclosed. We tried our best in terms of mechanical equipment and any sort of utilities and stuff. If it was allowable by code, we were bringing it within the envelope or bringing it within a screen wall so it wouldn't be visible to the public. Just to move through, this is actually the gym here to the south that our Everett neighbors would see from a great distance. And then that's the corridor that exit out. And then on the other side, that's the back of house of the kitchen. This is the portion that you'd actually see in between looking at the gym, and if your back would be to the classroom wing, and then there's the lobby connector right there. So for orientation, Kelly Road's on that side, and that's the multi-purpose field on that side. So this is the next elevation. You have the lobby connector there. Now your back is to the media center, and you're looking towards the classroom wing, and you can see the symmetry that we tried to achieve with hip roofs and a gable roof that descends, as well as the nodes that we create to split up the classrooms, and then the commons breakout spaces that slide in between there and let light into the interior. So the bus drop-off actually extends in this direction, and what would exist on the other side of the lobby connector would be those play areas that are directly associated with the younger grades. So moving down to second to last elevation, what you're looking at is if you're standing in the multi-purpose field, this is the gymnasium here, and then you have music, arts, and robotics. Your lobby connector sits right here, and then this would be the east elevation of the classroom wing. And then as you move forward, you have the main entry that would front Dundee. And then finally, the Dundee elevation, the main elevation, probably should go ahead and start. The main entry is intended to be there with your hip roof and signage. And then you have your common areas. Language is very similar to the south elevation of the classroom wing and where it steps back.
The elevations that are most important in terms of viewing from the street, from Kelly and from Dundee, would be the west, the top one.
Yes.
That would be viewed from Kelly, and then viewed at a distance from Dundee, the bottom one, the north.
Yes. One other thing before I move on in terms of fenestration to note, and let's just see if we can zoom in on here so you can understand, because there's quite a bit of detail in here. And a lot of it's we're probably going to touch on, given certain precedents and details that we saw within the community. So you have the brick wrap right here at the entry, main entry canopy. The dark lines that break up that brick column, those are actually brick reveals. And we were taking cues from, well, I think a primary example would be the main entrance to Carolina Inn, where they do that simple and clean, elegant brick reveal. You also have several examples within the downtown core with some of the buildings that use the brick reveal, which is really nice. You see a slight variation color. I did mention that the brick is all Norman, it's all red. Where we're trying to break up the facade quite a bit is with two different brick coursings. Where you see the lighter coursing, that's a third running bond, typical and traditional third running bond. And then where you see the slightly darker areas intended to sort of group and give a hierarchy and organization to the window openings, that is a English bond, but same brick color. And then where you see the dark lines that descend both horizontally and vertically, those would be brick reveals as well. The only exception to that is down here where you have, it's another cue we took from the community. It's actually, initially we took it from the existing cafeteria currently on the elementary school's campus of a brick projection that sits right there and starts to break up the facade right at the sill height.
But you do not have, I think, a color representation of what you think this looks like, but that section will be predominantly all the same color red.
Yeah,
with gray roof. That's what the eye would see mostly.
Yeah, and we have some renderings. We'll get to that. It's kind of building into detail. Sorry, thank you for being patient with me, but there's a ton more detail coming. One other thing to note, this is probably the first indication, having zoomed in it, is where we're doing, we have a small brick wrap, and then we have a double column detail, and that's again taking cues from the Carolina Inn's main entry, how they use the double column. So this is more just for reference purposes as the discussion goes along, but it gives you a sense, building sections of the different volumes as you move from the gym, different specialty classrooms, and then the main classroom there. We're happy to come in and zoom in that if anybody has questions. One thing to note that I probably haven't mentioned as of yet is the classroom has two occupiable floors, first floor and second floor, but in order to get the mechanical equipment up in the protected envelope and out of sight, there's actually a mechanical platform that sits up within that pitched roof structure. You can see it indicated here, 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 and it's there and there. Moving on, just to make sure that we're aware of all the structures that'll be on the site. This is a small and modest lawn storage unit that will sit in the lower southwest corner of the multipurpose field. So it'll be in between the multipurpose field and the staff parking. But the brick color, detail, fenestration, will be much the same as the main building. And then the roof will be the same as well. It'll be a standing seam metal roof, mid-tone gray. And then finally is the cupola and how we intend to treat it, refurbish the cupola, build it a new pedestal, and it'll sit right there, front and center, prominent at the pedestrian approach and surrounded by the community garden. And then finally, to be sited on the corner of Dundee and Kelly. We're still working out precisely where it needs to fall in relation to triangle sight lines, and then also make sure that it's clearly legible while maintaining the existing tree buffer, but it'll sit at the corner of Kelly and Dundee, and the brick will be the same brick detail. One addition or one change from that is that we will have a precast panel that sits there to make sure that it's a high contrast, clearly visible, clearly legible. Now onto the color renderings. Hopefully we've studied it enough. People can get fairly oriented very quickly. But the lower left page, that is just beyond off page, that would be Dundee. So this is your main drive that snakes around here, and this is your main entrance and student pickup and drop off. There's the classroom wing here. There's your bus drop off canopy that protrudes at this location. Bus lot. Kelly drives off to the page on the right. Staff parking here. Then you have dining. You have media center, and then you have the gym back here, and then the multi-purpose here. And this white space, that's the portion of the flat roof that we have concealed from the street. The reason being is, and it was really a huge driver in how the roof started to take form, is that we had an appreciation that there's a difference that if you bring a gable out front, then the apex of your roof is much closer to occupiable space of the user. So we wanted to utilize a hip roof so that tallest portion of the building is sitting as far back as it possibly can. So we were incorporating similar strategies here by having the flat roof in the center and making sure that these lower saddles stay as low as they possibly can and respectful. This is a Dundee view. You can get a real good shot of the cupola and the main pedestrian approach here. Pick up and drop off, main entry, classroom wing in the front, and then you can see the gym in the back, multi-purpose. I'll just cycle through and feel free if anybody has any questions. This is another view. This is pretty much just above the main entry drop-off. This is kind of hovering above the multi-purpose field. So you see the gym over here. That's the lobby connector, robotics, art, and then music, and then your classroom wing. Dundee's here, Kelly is here. Okay, just kind of panning a little bit. Now your gym is a little bit more in the foreground, so you get a sense of the clear story windows here to try to allow as much natural light into the gym as possible. And in truth, that's taking some cues from the existing gym that is currently sitting at the northeast corner. It's a view that's kind of hovering up above the staff parking. You can see that service yard there. There's your dining. Kitchen is the lower hung roof here. Gymnasium, media center, and then you have your classroom wing. Kelly here. Kelly. There's your dining, service yard, media center, classroom wing, and then Dundee runs along here. Your main entrance would be right about here, and then bus drop-off and the public entrance for after hours would be right here. little bit closer view of the main entrance and some of the signage.
I have a question. At this point, as we're looking at the windows pretty, in as much detail as we've seen them, and this is the window design. Okay. You mentioned there's a shading feature that's on the interior of the window.
Yes, that'll be, we did a lot of sun studies, and that'll be on, only on facades where it's appropriate, where we thought there were excess solar heat gain and glare potential. So you're going to see mostly that on the, not on the northern side, but on the southern side, and to an extent to the east and west, depending on the orientation. What you're looking at there is, so it's going to be aluminum windows, but they're going to be powder coat white. You have a thickened mullion there, and then you have thinner muttons that start to break it up. Another view more from ground level. You can see the community garden off to your right, excuse me, your left. And that's your main approach, pedestrian approach, just after you've passed that cupola. There's a community garden that weaves in with the canopy, and now you're getting a sense of the long linear canopies, the shed roofs, and then a much more formal treatment in the main canopy. So we're creating a clear hierarchy of where you enter the building. And in John and Roger's word, it is more Pinehursty. So this is just to the north of the bus parking lot, just to give you a sense of scale of how the classroom wing steps down. These entrances there will be used mostly just for as convenience and emergency exit. Most of your students are going to be routed through the main entrance and through the bus drop-off. Speaking of bus drop-off, there's your shed roof that extends all the way back into the lobby connector and classroom here. Kind of sitting in the bus parking lot. Hopefully not too long though. There's just a closer view of that.
And so those supports there, you have the brick base and then what's that material? The white?
It's painted steel. Yeah. Correct. Yes. Oh, and actually you can start to see some of the sun shading devices there back in the media center. This is getting a closer look at the clear stories for the gym, and then the canopy over here, and then the glass wall that faces out into the multi-purpose field.
That on the end is actually the canopy, and there's a whole glass wall in there?
Yeah, it's got steel that's integrated in it, and then you see the opaque portion here. That will, of course, be built in. It's a detail to make sure that we have crash pads on the back side of the basketball court so we can ensure safety. And that's it for my formal presentation.
Back up to a picture, a colored picture that shows the insets where you have broken up the mass of the front facade. Well, you can see it at a distance there, but those are the areas I was thinking about.
Out the front. There you go.
And so those are, what, metal panels?
Yes, those are metal panels. And the
And those
thought-
windows, those windows are a little bit different, so.
Yeah,
a little
they're
difference
Now it's
there.
cooperative.
They're larger in scale, that is. Thought is to maximize the amount of light that it has. It's a much lighter assembly, much lighter language comparative to the brick face. White, of course, goes back and denotes Carolina Inn, but we felt that it was more appropriate to use metal panel in this case. so we could have better life cycle costs and that we had a more efficient envelope.
Passing the materials back around so you can look at the storefront metal that he's talking about in that location.
So that the piece on there marked storefront is what those metal panels are in those insets, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah, it would match.
Have comments from attendees? All right. Please introduce yourself, and I will ask you to please introduce yourself.
Scott Sheffield.
Scott, do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Could we go back to the site plan? Could you run me through what the activity in that bus drop-off area is during the day, and how many buses you've figured that would come through there in a day, and how many would actually be parked in that area?
Could I jump in really quickly? I just want to make sure that we make it plain that that's not an item that's the purview for the Historic Preservation Commission. You know, that they're tasked with following their guidelines, and you're really talking something that's more related to the planning and zoning review. I'm not saying not to answer the question, but I just want to make it plain that we're kind of in two different fields here.
The only reason I mention it is because I understand they're asking for a deviation from the amount of hardscape or impervious material they can have.
That will be the subject of another meeting we've got coming up. Okay.
All right, thank you. I'll take it up then.
Other comments?
Thank you, it was excellent. Excellent presentation.
I think there's another comment.
Comment over there.
We have two.
Well, Judy
Judy,
Davis, welcome.
I'm Judy Davis, and I live at...
Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is.
Thank
And I have questions.
Yes.
I'm not going to give you testimony. But I live at the corner of Kelly and Everett. So the teacher's parking lot and the gym are now in my backyard. So I want to understand, because I thought that the gym was the highest point when you were going through it, but the pictures make it look like that the classroom is actually the highest.
Yeah, the classroom is a two-story classroom with a mechanical platform. So at the peak of the roof, it's 44 feet and 10 inches. The highest point in the gym is going to be 36 feet.
Okay.
Do keep in mind when you go back, if we go back to our studies, that currently if I understand correctly, the existing auditorium sits rather close to the property lines on Everett.
No, the back of the school building sits there.
Yes, that would be the back
Oh,
of the
that's the
existing auditorium.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
Um,
Sorry.
And now you would have considerable more room in between a structure and anyone's backyard. It would now be 172 feet
Right,
southern edge of the gym.
right. And I, too, am interested in the stationary buses that are going to be there, because occasionally I see them now on the property. So I think that there's some interest in the neighbors in knowing what's going to be there on a permanent basis. And there's also a road right now that goes behind the back of the school and the back of my property, where school repair service people sit there a lot. So it seems like to me that road is gone. I just want to confirm that.
That is correct.
And I will say that I'm so glad that this is Brick. I'm so glad that we're building a new school for the families in Pinehurst. I think a lot more people want to go to the school than is being thought about in the redistricting, but I'll leave that there. But I think the impact on our community is considerable because we're going to go from 600 students attending this school to 800. And that's going to make quite a bit of difference in traffic and school buses coming in and out of our neighborhood. I love the chaos every morning between 7:15 and 7:35 of all the hubbub and that's going on, and some of my neighbors think I'm crazy, but I love that activity. There's just going to be a whole lot more activity because it's going to be a much more filled school. If you would go back to the rendering of the school, I'm definitely not in love with the look of the school. Yes, it's brick. Yes, I like the darker roof, but it doesn't feel a whole lot like Pinehurst. And I think, more mullions and windows would help a little bit, but I'll just share with you that point of view that I have, that it's not, it's better than some of the other schools I've seen by quite a lot, but I hope for more. Thank you.
Have another speaker? Yes. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Mark Anderson.
Mark Anderson, do you affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I have one comment and two questions or concerns. Living right across the street from the school where the new entrance is placed on Dundee Road, we counted today, and there are at least 12 pine trees, 2 large magnolia trees, 3 power poles that will have to be displaced or removed. So that probably might be a concern for the landscaping of this new area. But that's my comment. And the question is, one of those power poles is the street light on that corner intersection. So we enjoy that street light. We want to know if that's still going to be maintained there or something. And I'd like you to see, do you have the detail today to address how the night lighting is going to be around the building?
Yeah. The project, I don't want to blow everyone's ears off. The design of the project incorporates exterior wall packs on the building that have cutoff shields on them so that we can maintain a safe and secure site at night. It is not intended to light it up like a car lot or anything like that. It's subtle lighting to give enough ambient light so people can visually maintain security around the building during the evenings.
That is a concern. We do have teenagers that go through there at night, and sometimes the cops have been through there. My other question would be, inevitably, when this is not large enough, where are you going to put the additional trailers on site?
Don?
Thank you. I was about to just turn around and sit down. Potentially, with every school, modular trailers can be a reality. If you take a look at this site plan, to the east side, we have what's not accurately represented here is that retention area. It goes further around the corner, a little bit more down that way, yes. So that becomes a challenge. So we cannot place them there. Obviously, we can't place them in the front. We have a school bus parking lot over on the west. So the only spot left is to the south, directly behind the kitchen area, next to where the staff parking lot is. And that's the only opportunity we have here.
And I would point out at this moment in time that, once again, we would have to go back and look at built-upon area before they put the modulars out there. Okay.
And it would have to come back in front of this board again.
This board and also at least the
Probably planning
P&Z.
and zoning, but outside the scope of this hearing. Okay, thank you.
Will this building also serve as an emergency shelter?
It is not designed to meet the FEMA requirements for an emergency shelter. They have very specific guidelines for self-sustaining energy, for hurricane, tornado resistance, et cetera. And so that is not in this case.
Thank you for your time.
I have something I would like to ask at this moment, if that's okay. Could you please clarify what you're asking the Historic Preservation Commission to approve this evening? Are you asking for approval of the building, signage, landscaping? I mean, are you looking for everything to be approved tonight? Because I know some of the detail just really came in today, and some of it you may not necessarily have to have today. So I thought it would be good if you would clarify what you're requesting.
The building would be the primary thrust, signage as well. Landscape plan's pretty far along, but it still has, it's in zones as opposed to having specific plantings pointing to where. That's still in flux. But in truth, as much as the committee is appropriate,
I think we've got a fair chunk on the building itself. I'm not sure, I'm particularly comfortable with the signage at this point in time.
I agree with you.
I saw what it was, but I'm not sure there's a clear definition of where it is. And by signage, that also means signage on the building, et cetera, and I saw some of that, but I don't know as that was emphasized. So if we want to take up signage, I think I'm going to need a little bit more information.
We'll need some more details, so could we just deal with the structure?
absolutely.
Okay.
And was there a question or an answer to the gentleman's question about trees and/or power poles that may have to be moved or removed? And is that on Dundee,
That
opposite
is-
the entrance?
That he's talking about that new entry for vehicles off of Dundee at the top of the page there. So in order to construct that, we need to clear that area. We also need to abide by all the requirements for landscaping for this site. And at the, which meeting was it yesterday? Planning and zoning, thank you. Quite a few meetings, I just get them mixed up. At the planning and zoning, we even voluntarily said that we would add landscaping to the southern boundary of the site and to the eastern side of the site above what the requirement is. So,
But
So
then
we'll
the
see
dri-
that again. We'll see that again, the
yes,
landscape.
you'll see a final. Mhm.
Yeah, it sounds to me like the only thing we're talking about tonight is the building.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't see enough detail, I think, for me personally, is all I can speak for, that there's much beyond the detail. I mean, I understand where the driveways are and that kind of stuff as well, but is signage and unless you're proposing those green circles on there or your final landscaping, which I don't think you are, I don't think we're to the point of landscaping yet either.
Thank you. Any more discussion from the commissioners? Do I hear a motion on the structure?
Maybe before we go to a motion, just a conversation among us. It's a good thing for the community when you need to build a new school. It means people want to come here, and you can't put them in more and more trailers, so I'm not against the school. I don't know how we're going to decide on whether this is congruous or not.
Well, and it's, as Kathy points out in the staff presentation, it is in a residential district, but it is a governmental and non-residential project. So,
That really makes it tough. So in a residential district, if you're looking at a house, you would not want to consider standing seam roofs. You have actually a prohibition against doing them. But on the same side of the coin, this is not a residential structure. So I think a good bit of what you really needed to consider was a lot of what Brent focused on this evening, which is how do you bring things down to scale? How do you bring things down to fit into the neighborhood? Are the materials sufficiently compatible? And there may be some things here that you will not necessarily find to be supportive in every one of your findings, but can you make that final decision of this will be congruous or not, as where you're going to go?
It's not our purview to do design, nor would I consider myself capable of doing that anyway, and certainly not on the fly. But I spent a lot of time in Alpharetta, Georgia, and it appears that every building in Alpharetta, Georgia has been built in the last 15 years, and you could drop this school into Alpharetta, Georgia, and it would look exactly the same as it does here, and it would seem very congruous. And I would argue that Alpharetta, Georgia is not congruous with the historic nature of Pinehurst. I don't know how you would have squared that circle anyway. You could have built it all white clapboard and try to make it look like the Carolina Hotel, I suppose. again, I'm not trying to redesign, but do we have a standard for something for which there is no other comparable building anywhere, nor is there likely to be?
Right, if you were building in the commercial district, you would expect to see a brick building,
Right.
which is exactly, kind of what you have here. But it's a little out of place because it's sitting in a residential district.
And
On the other side of the coin, though, the one thing I would point out, when you're making decisions about your historic district, remember you have to base it on the entirety of the district and not necessarily just on the neighborhood, so.
Plus, it's replacing an existing structure that is a school.
which is already in that section of district. So I mean, it is an anomaly in that portion of town anyway.
That answers your question.
Well, but it was constructed long before this commission existed, or
Makes
could
no
have
difference.
approved or disapproved it.
Makes
So-
no difference.
Yeah. So I mean, it's an anomaly. I agree with you. It is an anomaly. There is no question. It's in a residential district, but not too far down the road on Dundee is also another anomaly, which is Clark. I mean, that is also across the street, if you will, of the same thing too. So there are anomalies in that side of town that are already there as part of the historic district. So I kind of look at it as one anomaly replacing another anomaly in the same square, in the same lot. And then I think you have to make some conclusions that you've got to deal with the fact it's a school in a residential area. And it has been and it will be.
Which most schools are.
Right.
Look around.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing, that
Yes.
it's a neighborhood school.
Right.
And it has to support the program inside, so you have a lot of activities, some of them take up a lot of space. It has to be 2 stories. I think that's one of the major changes is the height of the gym wing and the dining and also the classroom wing. But you have, in good faith, you have looked at other structures in the village, historic structures like the hotel, like the buildings in the village core, and looked at the brick patterns and the configuration of supports and all of that, and tried to, within program, the school and the budget, which I know is tough, tried to make, something that would be less massive, and more appealing, given the location.
That was really my last question. You had a page on fenestration, and you showed all different kind of designs, but almost all the windows appear to be the same. Are there really that many different windows on the interior somewhere, or?
That was a cataloging study of what's out in your community.
Okay. Right.
Research.
But as a practical matter, either combination of budget or functionality in terms of tinting and what have you, shading, you were kind of, I don't want to say this is the only window you could have chosen, but it was going to be something like this.
Correct, yeah. And we certainly wanted to break up the glazing, but we wanted to find that balance where you didn't introduce too many pieces to where it became more costly, but just as important or more important that it didn't turn into a maintenance headache for the school. So, with every little surface.
Sure.
Anything else?
I just want to comment again about the presentation, and thank you. It was a lot of detail and a lot, because what I had presented to me as a package was somewhat limited, if nothing else, in size, because it was 8.5 by 11, so I do appreciate bringing in the larger drawings and between those larger drawings and your presentation, thank you. It helped clarify many of the questions that I had before I started this portion of the meeting tonight.
I think we're ready for a motion on the structure of the new school.
I will take a stab at it.
I'd like to recommend we do just a couple of things in that process. One, we've been at it for about 2 hours now, glowing on it. If we take maybe a quick 5-10 minute break and we can look at wordsmithing this during that 5 or 10 minute break.
Well, I think we have our findings of fact. I think we can do that, and then we will take a break.
Okay. I was just gonna, all right.
And is the number correct on this one? This is 19052?
Is 19052.
Well, I move that we conclude that the proposed project, Certificate of Appropriateness number 19-052, if constructed according to the approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. The proposed school will be constructed of acceptable materials. The proposed school does demonstrate consistent architectural features. The roof will be of an acceptable design. Building openings are shown in an ordered rhythm. The proposed roof will, I believe this is considered an earth tone?
No, it
So-
will not. Excuse me, it will.
Right. The proposed roof will be earth-toned in hue. I don't know who actually discussed fencing at all.
That's to be discussed.
I think you probably could is it okay to bring the fencing back when we discuss landscaping? I think that would be the best time to address
Let's do
fencing.
that.
So we can remove the statement on fencing?
Right. The proposed project will be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District, and therefore that the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans. And I don't think there were any conditions.
The only condition I think I would think about would be that this approval is for the building only, and not any other portion of that there's still more materials expected to come back in front of this commission, just to be clear.
Yeah, subject to the condition that this is an approval for the building only.
Perfect.
Motion by John Taylor, second by Terry Lurtz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
We will take a, what,
5
5
minutes?
minutes?
Yeah.
5 minutes recess.
I've got a
And I'm sorry that we have gone on so long already. But
We're all sorry,
We
but
have
that's
what-
just the way it
but we
Taking a pause.
taking a recess.
But
There were
how many we've done.
We are going to get back on track with 600 Linden Road, but I'm waiting for my commissioners.
So which one is that?
It's B, COA 19050.
450. This is pretty straightforward. Did you pull in to look at it?
Well, this is really interesting. Where did it go? There we go.
Push.
You know, Molly, one of the words that confuses me that we use here is conspicuous versus inconspicuous. Yeah, because I would have said that the porch is,
Exactly. I think that was misspoken.
okay,
I agree with you.
okay,
I know
that's,
that. Yeah.
okay.
Right.
So we are back in business, and our next case is 600 Linden Road. Oh, they left. Is there anybody here to represent 600 Linden Road? We will move to the next one, which is 185 Cherokee. And I will be recusing myself since I live there. And Tom Schroeder, our vice chair, will be presiding.
Oh, goodness.
Here you have what you need.
Yeah, okay, 45. That's the one.
You might need this.
Yes, I might. Thank you. And I'm just going to go over and take your chair, just because that's where the focus usually comes out.
You get the gavel.
Gotta have the gavel. I sit 12 years on a bench and never use it 3 times, I don't think, but. Okay, this is COA 19-045, I believe.
It is indeed.
Okay. Staff report, and then we'll swear the two of you in after we get the staff report, if that's okay.
And I'll go ahead up front and just enter the entirety of the staff report into the record. That should be the easiest way
Please.
to do that. And this is on parcel number 24884. We have a contributing dwelling, year built 1895, with a detached frame garage that was built around 1930. My numbers serve me correct. And what the applicant is proposing to do this evening is add 6 feet to the existing garage, repair the existing garage to include a new roof, windows, garage doors, service door, and new siding to match the existing house, with the colors matching, windows and siding matching. So the language we'll be looking at today really is the focus on additions to main dwellings, which the existing garage is a non-conforming garage under zoning. The addition will be on the eastern side and front, but to the rear of the property line behind the dwelling, and will not constitute an expansion of the zoning nonconformity. So I just wanted to mention that. In our materials list, you can see where they've identified the consistency in colors with what is out there. Roof forms are particularly important, shall blend with original buildings. The outbuilding is proposed to be 13 feet, 2 3/4 inches in height. The roof is a little different. The gable roof will be off-centered to accommodate the degree of slope needed to incorporate the 6-foot addition. So that kind of skews that angle just a little bit. The existing dwelling has a gable roof with numerous breaks in the roof lines at the front of the property. And this is great. We're getting some pictures up here, so if that helps to see. Windows should be similar to those in the original buildings in terms of their proportion, spacing, muntins, and materials. And let's see. I think we had, well, I'll tell you what, we can get into that when we talk about it a little bit. Okay. I didn't know if you want to go ahead and just jump right in and discuss the windows while we're
Hold it.
at that, or would
I
you
need to
want?
swear them in before they do that.
Oh, you
so
haven't done that, that's true.
I have not done that, so
You want to pause and do that now, or wait until I finish?
wait till you finish.
Well,
and
we
then
can
we'll
come back
to
and
the
do it
windows.
then. Okay. The addition shouldn't be taller than the original building, and checking the height of the building on the tax office, it was listed as 1 3/4 stories in height. So the addition, in this case, should not be taller than the original building. All of the foundation's eaves, major horizontal elements should align. And in this case, the expansion is to occur on slab consistent with the remainder of the garage. So garages are typically single bay, located in the rear yard at the end of the driveway. Proportions should be compatible with the main house and should use traditional form and material for the district. The garage is going from a 2.5 to a 3-bay garage and will match existing house colors and siding. And I think that is a quick summary of everything that we had for this one. So we might want to get a little more information on windows because I didn't put a lot of detail on that in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. And starting with the gentleman on my left, or the one over there, I need you to please stand. You have to have a microphone, though, because if you don't speak into a microphone, there's nothing on the record. So if I do that, and please state your name and address, please.
Bird Gwynn, 185 Cherokee, Pinehurst.
Okay, would you please raise your right hand? Purpose of this commission, whoops, wrong one. Got the wrong thing, where'd it go? I don't have.
I swear to tell the truth.
Whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. You
I
do,
do.
aye? And the other gentleman, please stand up, state your name and address, please.
Ronald Davidson, 5 Monroe Lane, Pinehurst.
Okay, Mr. Davidson, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Okay, which one of you wants to speak first?
Well.
Okay. Just remember, you got to have you can either use the stand-up microphone or you
Okay.
can
Well, I don't
pass that one back and forth.
I'm going to pass out pictures of the existing thing, and I call it a thing because it is a thing.
Okay.
And if you look at the ridge line in the picture.
Could we have the pictures then? And then you can explain them?
Well, let me explain it first.
Okay.
Well,
You know what they look like, we don't. That's why I ask.
but the ridge line separates two properties. It says it's a 2.5 bay garage now. The Gwynns own 1.5 bays. Dillon's, our neighbors, own the other bay.
So it's owned by two different people. Is that, okay.
So we're just remodeling half of the structure, of the existing structure. So
Okay.
everything's going to be the same, only bigger.
Okay,
We
and-
mentioned the windows. There's an existing window in the front, and so it'll be 2 by 2. 2 over 2, you call it.
4 over 4. 4 over 4.
Is that a picture of it?
That's existing window in the front, the Cherokee Road side.
So it's going to look like this when you're done?
Correct.
So who owns the part that's being redone?
Wins.
Okay, so it's on your side that's being redone, just so I understand. Okay, I just wasn't clear. Okay, anything else you want us to understand? Okay, questions from the commission?
On the drawing that we're looking at here, you got up there, where's the property line?
Drawing up there would be,
Right at the ridge line.
it's right at the ridge line. Right here.
There's the ridge line. Look at the garage, look to your left. You can see the ridge line. No, to your left. The picture on the left. Right.
Yeah, that's the ridge line, but here, it's here. This is what we're adding. So the property line on this is here.
So currently, there's one car space on your neighbor's property and one car space plus a little more on yours.
Right.
And you're going to expand that so there's room for 2 cars on your part. Otherwise, you're not changing the building. The building, their part of the building remains the same.
Exactly.
Got it.
Any other questions from commissioners? Anybody in the public have any input? Let the record show that nobody from the public has input. Discussion amongst the commissioners. Hearing no discussion, somebody want to make a motion?
Well, since I think it's a no-brainer, I'll make the motion.
Okay. And if it's not a no-brainer, you're not going to make the motion?
No, somebody might find me disqualified.
Okay.
I move that we conclude that the proposed project certificate of appropriateness number 19-045, if constructed according to the approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. The proposed addition will be inconspicuous and will be to the rear of the main structure. The proposed addition will be of similar scale and character as the existing garage building. The proposed addition will consist of compatible materials and colors to the existing building. The proposed structure will be compatible with neighboring buildings. The roof line of the proposed addition will blend with the original building. The windows in the proposed addition will be similar to those in the original building. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundations and eaves that generally align with the existing building. The proposed garage will add a partial single bay and will be located at the rear end of the drive. The proposed garage will be compatible with the main house. The proposed garage will use traditional forms and materials. And the proposed project will be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District. And therefore, that the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans.
Discussion?
I think just as the proposed garage will not be single bay. It will be become a 2-bay garage.
I thought I covered that.
Right, okay.
Add a half a bay.
Right, you're adding half a bay, but given our standards, the standards are a single bay, so it will not be a single bay, is that Correct?
It's not a single bay now, and it's not going to be one.
When we're done, okay.
Well, their portion of it is a single bay now.
Well, there you go. The other portion. Okay.
Second.
Got the second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Got your COA, sir.
4 of us still constitute a quorum.
Yes, we do.
Don't count someone who is not, who's disqualified.
I wondered whether
Yes.
the minimum was 3.
Okay.
So it's 4, just because there's...
Even when I look at it. I know, I saw that when I was over there, and I didn't understand it.
Now you do.
Now I do.
Okay, I yield the chair back to the
Chair.
chairwoman.
Thank you, thank you. And we are at our last case, which is on 5 Everett Road.
No, I think it's not. We've already had a 51.
What is the number one on this one? That's where I got confused.
I have
Okay.
51 on this one.
We had a 51 earlier. We can't have 2.
And so we'll have Kathy.
Why don't we have a 51B, just to make sure I haven't already assigned 52 to something else since then?
So it is 51B,
Be like Bravo.
B like in Bravo. I take that on because I was confused before.
Thank you. And here we've got our visuals. Kathy, you want to go ahead and present the case?
I will do this very quickly. The nature of this project is to add, it's really funny because there's only a very minor piece of this project that I think actually triggers a major review. So add a rear entry porch cover, repaint the exterior the same color, restore the garage back to a garage, restore the porch where previously enclosed. So in a sense, this project does what you expect people to do that own historic structures. Where possible, keep them as historic as possible. So the drawing in question, if you look on the screen, and at the upper right drawing, you'll see where there is a tiny little cover added over the door that kind of matches that roof line there at the rear and on the front. That is the portion that is modifying the original structure that triggers the major review. So we felt that it was, even though it's an addition that's minor in scope, it still constitutes a major change, right? Okay. So under the porch entrance and balcony language, it actually says the enclosure of a porch alters the historic character of a building, is not considered appropriate in the district. This project would reverse what had been done to it previously. We also want to retain and preserve all architectural features that are character-defining elements. I think they probably can give you a little bit more information on that and how they intend to open that back up. Let's see. Garages should be preserved when feasible, including character-defining elements and architectural features. So, what they've proposed to do with their garage is just is appropriate. And then repainting the color with the existing color is also an acceptable activity. And I think that's the quick summary of the changes.
You. So will you introduce yourselves and I'll swear you in? Okay.
Brandon Sowell, owner of the home.
Do you swear that the testimony you shall give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you, thank you. And what do you have to add to Kathy's presentation?
Yeah, I'll let Wayne speak to some of the finishes on the front porch, but to Kathy's point, we're looking to restore the house as best as we can and maintain the integrity. At some point, we don't know the history, the front porch was enclosed. We would just like to restore that back to the original, as well as at some point the garage was enclosed to be a room. We'd like to restore that back to a garage. And then to Kathy's point, the only change that we're looking to add on to the structure is at the rear elevation, just a covered porch that has been designed to be in the integrity of the front of the house as well. So it's just meant to be a back porch covering for any kind of inclement weather, but something definitely designed to be with the integrity of the structure itself. And looking to do the framing on the front. Wayne and Pinehurst Homes have done a lot of the homes in the local area there in the village, and looking to maintain some of the integrity that in the structures that he's built with those houses down in the village as well.
Yeah, this one was a little easier than most that we've had. The framing for the existing porch is still in place, and so, we'll use it to build it back the way that it used to be. It's always exciting to put a home back, the way that it used to be. The little addition in the rear, it needs a covered area over that rear porch to come in, and restoring the garage back, is also a good compliment, I think, to the historical area.
Well, and that garage still has its framing around where the door had been, ready to be a garage again.
If we do anything to the garage at all, we make it wide enough so a car can get in and out a little bit easier.
Yeah.
It really won't be nice.
Will the driveway be off Everett or off Orange Road? I assume Orange.
So it's currently off of Orange and would maintain.
It's hard to see that there's one there at all, but.
Right, correct.
So I love the Old South Realty picture you included, and, it's kind of hard to see the
Yes.
original framing of the porch. Did you discover that at the Tufts Archives?
Correct, yeah. I went to
Okay.
try to research the history of the home, and that was the only photo that existed,
Okay.
unfortunately, there.
It's like a square pillar?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Will you keep the white paint on the foundation? How are you going to treat that? Because the paint, but the steps are brick without paint, so.
At this point, I don't plan on changing any color.
Okay.
Okay, they're having trouble picking you up in the microphone, so just lean a little closer.
Closer.
Yes.
How's that?
Kathy, I'm a little bit confused as to how much of this project is before us, because, I mean, are we here to consider restoring the garage? Is that part of this project?
Actually, it really is just that rear entry porch.
Okay,
But I think if you want to go ahead and take the project collectively and just, if you're going to approve it, approve the whole thing, because that way I can just issue one certificate of appropriateness instead of a major and a minor. You just do it all in one.
I don't know that we have enough information about what they're planning to do with the garage in the materials.
Well, Wayne was talking about it. I know we don't have any drawings.
Yeah,
There are no drawings. But as I well, explain what you're going to do to the garage.
Basically, we're going to restore it back. I mean, it's going to look like it does. I don't guess we do have anything exactly on that.
Well, you'll be adding a door, most
Correct.
probably. So, and we don't have information on that.
Right, because it's listed as a metal door that would be white.
Correct, to be a faux carriage door. We do have the picture here that we can have. I do have a picture if you wanted to pull it up on the screen.
That would be good. That's a good point.
Oh. Not in the packet, so.
Here we
Do
go.
not have
Have
that page.
incomplete records.
Thank you. Yes, this adds a little more detail.
Yeah. Okay, I wondered what kind of carriage doors or whatever, okay. Because this is the only thing you're gonna see, you can't see that,
Right, can't see that.
no. We'll pass it along,
Yeah, that's a garage
yeah,
overhead.
coming in this way.
Right.
So this is a picture of the garage, and to the earlier point, you can see the previous door for the garage that was there. Had to be replaced
And that drawing's coming around. There we go.
This is looking at it from the view from Orange Road. Right. That you can see both the back porch addition that we're talking about, and then gives you the detail of what the garage would look like.
That's helpful.
I think if that's not part of the official record, it should be.
All right. May we keep this copy, or is this the only one?
Have that.
More discussion? Does anyone feel ready to make a motion?
Let me try.
Okay. Terry Lurtz.
I move that we conclude that the proposed project, Certificate of Appropriateness 19-051 Baker, if constructed according to approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. The proposed change to the front porch will be compatible with the character of the district. The proposed addition of a rear porch will not be inconspicuous. The proposed addition of a rear porch cover will be compatible with the architectural features of the house. The garage renovation will restore the garage with appropriate architectural features. Repainting the exterior of the structures with the existing color will be compatible with the building and the district. The proposed project will be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District. And therefore, that the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans.
Point of order. When we say something is or is not conspicuous, does that just mean from the roadside, or in this case,
Yes.
since it's on the rear, if we walk around?
And so it is inconspicuous. It is inconspicuous. We've been tripped up by that a couple of times in the course of this hearing, misstating, and so this in particular would be inconspicuous because it's not visible from the street.
Yes, it is.
Well, I guess it is.
It definitely is from Orange. That's why I changed it to will not. But anyway.
The rear porch.
Pardon?
Yeah,
The rear porch.
No, I think from Orange Road, it might be.
Oh, it definitely is.
Maybe even
visible.
Everett as it slides
The porch
around, but I'm
is,
not sure.
The garage is, both of them are.
Well, the garage
Well, the
certainly-
garage, definitely, true.
Definitely.
Okay. Does anyone have a second to the
Second.
motion? John Taylor seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
You went the distance with us.
Thank you.
So if somebody's not here.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to address that right now. So we've got one more, but nobody's here to present that, so,
I was going to, is it, in this particular case, if there were construction, or they want to demolish,
I want to demo it, but I
It's
don't know, the
straightforward.
property owner is not here. What is I wish Alex were here.
You
so-
can proceed.
yeah, we
You
can, as
proceed.
long,
You just will not have their testimony. So if there's a fact that they can't provide you, then, and you deny based on that fact, then that's kind of on them for not showing up.
right,
Let's get rid of it.
Okay.
as long as what we
last-
have
the
in the
last-
record stands on its own,
Exactly.
we're good.
you need to
Okay.
make the staff report so that it's in the record?
Yes,
That would probably be a good idea.
yes, it would be an excellent idea.
Are you ready for me
The
to start?
request to demolish a small accessory residence at 600 Linden Road. It is COA 19-050. And let's read it in, so it's described.
Okay. This is, 600 Linden Road, to occur on parcel ID number 16367. The applicant and property owner, it's the same, it's Riley and Walker Homes LLC. This is a very interesting case. In this particular instance, the principal dwelling has already been demolished. And at the time that hearing took place, there was a question about whether or not the guest house could be saved. And the applicant, since that time, has determined that there's really just, restoring it just does not seem to be practical at this time. That's what he has expressed directly to me. So the original dwelling was built in the mid-1920s, the 20s, and then I had that the year built, I had 39 on the guest house, approximately. Okay. The original survey of the property for listing noted that the 3-bay guest house is frame and construction with 6/6 windows, shutters, and a cupola. So of particular note, and the reason I mention this, it's like the most significant thing that seemed to pop out with this property was actually the hedgerow at the front, which is still going to be there. This is not going to affect that in any way.
The hedgerow's gone.
When did the hedgerow disappear?
I saw it today. There's a lot of material moved as of today.
Okay, that's an issue. I think maybe we will have to add that to an investigation.
If I'm wrong, I may be, but I think I saw it right as I came here tonight.
Okay, well, I will follow up on that tomorrow, and...
I didn't see that when I went by a few days ago.
Well, it just happened today, because I saw a lot of the bushes.
Well, I'm going to have another question too, because one of the requirements is there been any consideration to have it moved?
They can't move it.
Well, I don't know that, and I don't know as they're here to testify to that effect.
Can we continue it?
You can
I don't know how
continue
you
this
would-
case,
I
yes.
think
What
that's what
evidence you
we'll
would
do.
do.
I think
that's the
we'll
way to go with this
continue it
one.
until
In that building, if you ever
our
looked
next
at it.
meeting.
Yep. I
And
think. And if they-
our June meeting, which is, what, the 26th, I think, June 26th.
Move to adjourn.
I got
Don't
a
we,
couple of
don't
things.
we formally have to move to delay?
Well,
Or
Sure.
given that they weren't here?
I would
but
put it
that
on the
they
record.
weren't here,
I would say that we're going to delay it and.
we'll,
Just continue it to date certain, and you're
Table
fine.
it until the next meeting.
I move that we table it to the next meeting.
Second.
so Tom Schroeder moved that we table case number 19050 until the June meeting, seconded by Eric Von Salzen. And at this point, I need a motion to adjourn the public hearing and re-enter the regular meeting.
So moved.
John Taylor made the motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
Terry Lertz seconded the motion. All right.
All in favor?
So we're in our regular meeting, and are there things that the commissioners would like to speak to?
I definitely have something, one thing anyway.
Okay.
My understanding from talking to staff earlier today is that come our June meeting, we will no longer be using the old guidelines, which means there will be, I suspect, and staff can speak to this, I would suspect there would be significant differences in the staff report, the looks and how we're going to put together our motions and so on, given those new terms. I think it would probably be worth the group of us sitting down together between now and the next hearing, would be my recommendation, and figuring out exactly how we want to do that, because trying to do that in a public setting might be a bit of a challenge.
Well, I
Suggestion would be that why don't we get staff to tell us what they recommend before we have that meeting?
Right, that needs to come in at that meeting, I agree, but I think we ought to do it other than, it's got to be a public meeting because all of us are together, but
Right.
other than a public meeting where we're actually dealing with a live case.
Let's see how much change there is before we get to that.
Well, I can tell you there's going to be a significant change,
The wording of the motions will almost certainly have to change.
absolutely, and it's going to be a lot of change.
But the first thing that needs to happen is you need to read the new guidelines, because they are significantly different.
That's what that's,
So,
But
that's
by-
first assignment is to read them, and then we will get together, and Kathy will tell us how staff will approach them.
Yes.
And, and we'll put in our 2 cents worth,
Okay.
like always.
But I'm
Because I want to make
making,
sure I approach it the way you want it.
right.
but I'm making a guess that you have already begun a little bit looking at this?
I already have some thoughts on that. There's certain things we kind of have to hold consistent on whenever we're doing a quasi-judicial proceedings.
Right.
You're going to go, your findings of fact are still going to have to proceed along that path. So in a sense, how you make the motions may change, but the progression of the motion won't. I think when we're sitting there, we're looking at I'll call them recommendations versus requirements. I think it's important that you be informed of the recommendation because that gives you an ability to have a discussion with the applicant, but that, that the motion, or that your findings be driven by the requirements. Okay, so you're almost going to have a two-part type of listing in the future.
Where does the recommendation part come in? Is this recommendation of staff or?
Well, it's the different the guidelines are recommendations. There are a lot of guidelines that are phrased with you
Right,
should
the
do
must
this,
and
you
should.
The must and
right.
should language,
And
exactly.
the ones that are requirements are musts. So
And so when you're
there's a
making your
lot more of the
decision-
shoulds, recommendations, as Kathy said.
Right, but my point is that we have to be up to speed by the June meeting on this. So it's not something that we can wait too awful long to put together, because I don't know how I'm going to word any motion come the June meeting if we haven't got through this point. A, we haven't read the new guidelines, and B, we haven't addressed this issue, because I don't.
Well, and I think there's certain consistency we can approach on the must part of things, because if you think about it, each of your components is grouped, and so your musts are also grouped. And I think those can actually go straight from one document into the second document. So as you're going through and making your findings, you're making your findings on those musts.
Right.
And then your actual little summary at the top will be more of the should, and then maybe a summary of what the applicant actually said he was going to do. We're also recommending a change in the application. We've already drafted it up. One of the things that's always made me a little crazy and might make you crazy too, I always want to know what the original materials are. And so we're asking that, show us what you've got, show us what you're proposing so we can look at what you're really changing, rather than us having to go back and pull out that information. So the application is going down that path so we can get a better handle on what are they truly changing. So you'll see definitely the application's gotten a little bit bigger too. And we'll get you something in writing.
Isn't this document the same thing we just reviewed, basically, over the last several months?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Not substantially different?
No.
Okay.
No, but I
We're
think.
going to do some of it's going to be.
But the wording of the staff report itself will be different.
Right.
The
Yes.
format and
Way
the
the staff
layout.
reports will be
And where I
And the
can
way we
find
state
ways
our-
to
Very much the same.
abbreviate
Oh, I don't think
content,
so.
because we don't want to necessarily sit there and every staff report look like the actual guidelines. We'll find ways to maybe to abbreviate how we capture something, so we're not necessarily always writing a huge description of what's already in here, but we're flagging some bullets, so you know that you have to look at those bullets if you're going to have a good conversation with the applicant.
Have highlighted those issues which involve musts, but we also, because theoretically, we could find that something has so badly failed to satisfy a must requirement that we've got to turn down the application. On the other hand, we also need to be aware of the shoulds, because again, in theory, although shoulds are not mandatory, if enough shoulds are missed, then the project isn't congruous. And
Exactly.
so we need to,
So we need
focus
all
on
of
both
it.
of those aspects.
Right, but you still need to be able to clearly, and this is part of the quasi part of it, you still need to be clear to be able to say why you did or did not find it you found it incongruous or congruous, because if you don't find that and it goes up for review, you're a dead duck. You'll get
we will-
overturned every time.
That's the thought process so far.
So
Good.
we will set a date sometime in June, I would imagine, and we will get together. We will have an open meeting. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask for if you have reviewed the normal maintenance and minor works that were approved
did.
in the last month.
You can kind of see why the numbering system got a little bit confusing. We had 17 COAs applications during this past month, and I know while two of us were working on entering them into the spreadsheet at the same time the packets were being prepared, and so I think that resulted in an incompatible numbering system here.
And I think
we'll try
you're a
to make
little
sure that doesn't
shorthanded.
happen again.
Exactly. So no comments on the minor work?
None.
None. So, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. John Taylor moved to adjourn, and Tom Schroeder seconded, and we are all in favor. Aye.
Be it.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, thank you.